Now we extend the conversation on the Supreme Court verdict of Thursday. Of course, that conversation that we were on during Daybreak Interactive will be extended, as we now have a senior advocate of Nigeria with us in the studio who will be providing more context on this new development. Barrister Sam Kargbo joins us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me this morning.
Let us say, walk us through your first, impressions and reactions upon hearing this landmark judgment.
I think I would say a victory for Nigeria, a victory for democracy. And it also sent a message that the government is serious about its commitment to the promises that it has made, or it had made to the people during the electioneering campaigns. The federal government had actually been grappling with this issue for a very long time, starting with the quarrel between Lagos State and the Federation over the right of the state to balkanize the local government councils into local development areas, because the state believed then that as the custodians and the supervisors of the local government councils, they can also use that responsibility to further divide the local government councils for the purpose of taking development to the grassroots. But the Supreme Court said, of course, you have every right to do what you want to do, but the Constitution only recognizes the local government councils that are spelled out or listed in the Constitution. Every state is defined according to the local government councils that are written against it. And the problem has always been, what has the state governors been doing with the funds of the local government councils? It's very obvious. They've been very, sorry to use the word, very licentious, very imperial, very whimsical. And most times they look at the local government councils as if that is what their play toys. So much so that the funds of the local government councils are actually appropriated entirely by them. And most of the time they handpick who goes to what local councils, and sometimes they only pick their boys. The elections conducted by the local
councils.
The local SEC or
the state independent.
Yeah. It's a sham.
Of course,
that's the most disgraceful thing that ever happened to democracy. And of course, you also know that the State House of Assembly have always been pandering to the state government. Some local government councils had even gone to court. Many of them had had judgments in the manner of this nature and in the line of the reasoning of the Supreme Court. But the state governors have always flouted that and refused to implement them. Up to today, more than half of the states don't have elected government councils for the local government councils. Most of the people they have there are caretaker, what they call caretaker committees. Over 400 of them out of the 774. That is how bad it is. And when some of us saw the case as it was presented, very clever, very, very innovative, the fear we had was that, wow, this can be, because the provisions that we are talking about here are three principally. You have Section 7 of the Constitution. You also have Section 132 of the Constitution and Section 162 of the Constitution. Section 7 prescribes that the state should ensure that the local governments are democratically ruled by elected councillors and chairmen. That is prescribed in Section 7, that they should be run democratically. Democratically does not mean anything beyond making sure that you have elected officers who would be performing people under the mandate of functions with the mandate of the people.
Indeed.
Because governance at every sector is what? A delegation of the people's power to the institutions that are given to it. So we have that. But that aside, then we also have Section 132, because the Supreme Court also is an authority that is also established by the Constitution. It's not at large. The Constitution says these are your original powers. And what are the original powers? You have original powers when there is what? Conflict between states and the federal government, a state and the federal government, or when you have state to state. If you have that conflict, this is the original jurisdiction. And at some point, they had some other legislation that added conflict between the states and the National Assembly. That is the original jurisdiction. All other jurisdiction of the court should come in the guise of what? Appeals from the Court of Appeal.
But let me just say,
yes.
if I may butt in, so it's not yet Uhuru, isn't it? Especially with regards to the fact that these governors will, at the end of the day, oversee the activities of the State Independent Electoral Commission, who has the onus to ensure that elections is conducted within these local councils. So, can you walk us through what it would require, constitutionally speaking, to ensure that the onus of conducting elections at the state level, at the local government level, is ceded to the Independent National Electoral Commission?
That would have to be an amendment of the Constitution to that effect. And until we have that, I share your fears, because these gentlemen are very creative. Their creativity, as far as I know, is actually heavier in the form of what? Sabotaging the people's wills and the Constitution. You know, they are very creative. I cannot wait to see their reactions. They are going to be very, very, very inventive. Take a look at the order. You see Order 10 that says that no local government council should spend more than 500,000 naira cash per day. And that you have to explain the purpose of that expenditure. The NFI gave that, and it was given authorization by the president then. What did they do? Most of them, in order to circumvent that, they open up what they call, for every, let me just give you a broad narrative of it. They establish treasuries in maybe out of a local government, they would have 10 sub treasuries, and each one of those would have what? An account. And each one of those accounts are manned by separate people they call bossers or whatever it is. So you could have, in a day, if they have 10 or 20, each one of them drawing down 500 and bring the cash in the evening to the office of the governor or to the house of the governor. There are evidences of that. People have brought cases of that nature to me.
So an organized special
organized way to circumvent that. And when I look at it, I say, oh no, this country is in trouble, because these gentlemen are actually the problem. I've been saying so over and over. I've said, I think even as at the last sitting here, I've said so that if the states do just a quarter or a fraction of what the federal government is doing, as bad as the federal government is, as
pointed out,
not as we are talking about his capacity to develop, to deliver development, we have quarrels with that. I have always stated here that if the states and the governors could just do a fraction of that, Nigeria would have been a way ahead. But I'm happy now. Now you have a new sheriff who is very committed to his own view and goals for Nigeria, that's a very courageous political decision to even to go to court. And this also gives credence to the person you have as Attorney General. Those of us who are lawyers, those of us who have transacted with him and who had the benefit of his own person as a humanist and as a professional, we said, oh, this is one of the first times in a long while that you are having a person who fits the bill.
Indeed.
The Attorney General is very serious. You're not going to hear him involved into frivolous controversies. No. He's a very committed person, very focused, and he fits the bill. And this is just the beginning. I would not be surprised if they go ahead beyond this to do some other tinkering that would actually shake the political foundation of this country. Because you need to do that. The country is lagging behind in every facet of humanity. And all of that is what? Lack of leadership capacity. And that capacity is undermined by itself, by the people themselves who are entrusted with the reins of governance.
Indeed.
For their own benefit. So now that we are having this, yes, I share the sentiment of those who say this is not Uhuru. I also sympathize those who say, oh, this is not a legal judgment. I also believe that. I also believe that this is a policy judgment. This is what? The Supreme Court assuming the role of a constitutional court and the role of a policy court. The question of whether or not you have the right to assume that, that's another discussion for another day. But for now, they've done the right thing. Because this time around, let them rally themselves and say, I would hope that some of them would be advised to say, let us go back for interpretations. I have seen somebody somewhere saying that they are going to call the Attorney General to come and educate them on the meaning of the judgment. To me, that is insidious and very provocative. That is not his business. He cannot sit as an appellate mediator over what? The judgment of the Supreme Court. It's clear, it has spoken. And they clincher there, unlike other judgments that have been donated to some aggrieved local government councils. This time around, the clincher is that what? The judgment has given the federal government the power to withhold the funds.
Indeed.
Because beyond that, it would have just been what would I call it? It would have just been like any other judgment. But this time around, is beyond that.
But
because
let me just say, while we wait and hope that the courageous president takes it a step further by sending an executive bill to the National Assembly calling for the amendment of the Constitution to actually cede the responsibility of SIEC to INEC, the question of how deep this description that you made about, what state governors would do to ensure that they get these funds from the local government, even though there are orders talking about that made by the NFIU. They've tried all that they can to circumvent these processes. But then let's talk about the local government councils themselves. What are those fears that Nigerians should have following this judgment? Real fears, especially regarding corruption and the trauma that has come with 2 decades of these local government officials being subservient to state governors whom they fear and will do whatever for.
Yeah. First things first. We are getting there. It's going to take a while for us to have the National Assembly having the support of the state houses of assembly, because they have to concur. You have to have 3/4 of them supportive of whatever steps that are taken by the National Assembly in respect of what? Changing gears or allowing, authorizing INEC to conduct election at that level. That would have been good. But you see, here, when you talk as a professional and you talk as what the average Nigerian out there, you are conflicted. Because, hey, federalism simply means that what? Though identical, though with the same purpose, states are federated only to a certain extent. To the extent that what? Their federalism or their federation does not alter their specific identities. And that is why, like in America, who conducts even the presidential elections? Every state conducts its own and take it to the pool. You understand? You know beforehand who is what? The conductor of the election. In some other states is what? The Secretary of State that has that power, because what? You have to give the states the power to what? Evolve in their own image and likeness and in their speed. You understand? Definitely, every state comes with its own character and characteristics. And every state has what? Some embodiment and some coloration of what? The nations that populate it. These are all different characteristics, different. Definitely, if you walk through or you pass through Lagos to Kebbi, Lagos to Sokoto, Lagos to Kaduna, or Lagos to Kano, for every 100 kilometers, you see a new character entirely. That is what federalism has in mind, allowing you to develop in your own image, your own likeness, and with your own capacity. And in a manner that what? Does not offend the cultural composition of the state. But here is the catch. What have been having? Check or whatever you call it has been non-existent, because what do you have overnight? The governor writes out the list of those he wants to what?
Emerge.
Compensate for their assistance or participation in rigging them in to office, or perhaps at best supporting their election. And they go to the field, those people just write this thing. And that is why 9 out of 10, I said perhaps you see Kaduna or one of few places where you have 1, 2 people winning that are not part of the government of the day. So you have that. And mind you, you're going to have a problem. Now, how do you, the oversight of those funds you are taking, because you are taking also that money to Nigerians who are politicians, who have the same characteristics and the same DNA of the governors. The governors are from within those localities, from within the states, and these people are also infested with what? The DNA of corruption. Infested with the DNA of what? Wanting to be rich overnight. And the culture has been and is already an accepted norm that what? The best investment and the best form of overnight riches is what? Governance at all levels. The moment you give it to them, you're going to have what? New SARS who would also want to be rich and who will also be competing among themselves like the governors are doing. I bought a plane today, or I flew a girlfriend from Morocco, I brought my own from Brazil, this sort of something. They have that. They are going to also have what? That imperial and aggrandizing mind. You're going to put them there with so much money. You understand? But the question I'm going to ask is, as bad as these pictures we are making, what had been happening with the money itself? Those monies were what these governors were using to be that rich. Because what? For the monies that is sent to them, they have to give a semblance of what? Constitutionality or lawfulness. They do sham budgets. But they don't have to have a budget for the local government councils. So they just take this money, go and buy dollars, and put pressure on the naira, and what? Wreck the nation as they've been doing. So irrespective of the fact that, yes, we have these fears, and they are real, let the money go there first. And in any case, the Constitution did not just say, take the money. The Constitution has also empowered the National Assembly to say, for the monies that are coming from the Federation account, you have the right to make laws as to how those monies are to be used. Those laws are there. That provision is there. And for monies that these governors themselves or the states are enjoying to give to the local government councils, the Constitution also empowers the state houses of assembly to make laws regarding those ones. So I would expect that either way, if indeed the governors let go and really want Nigeria to develop, they would by themselves find a ways of monitoring those potential gangsters and ensuring that what the money get to them are done by what put into the expected use. But here is what is happening now. The fears I have most, in fact, is that irrespective of whether or not you vote these people with your blood, any one of them that may want to be independent, the governors will break them and take them out. Because funnily, I have never really seen a bunch of weaklings like this local government council chairman.
For lack of a better word.
I'm telling you, because you know what? There would have been a worse word, but because we are talking about this, okay. I'm telling you, because what? They have Algon, they have all of that, but they are ineffective. They cannot. And this brings me to the concept of civic culture, which is simply that public performance is only as effective as the people want it to be.
Indeed.
You have public dissonance as a correlation of what? People's tolerance for failure. Whatever you as a people are, in terms of what? Your connivance, your indulgence, your tolerance level of what? Public inanities is going to reflect in what? Public performance. So if you have the people ready to take governance seriously and see a correlation or a relationship between what? Governance and their own persons, economic, social, and otherwise, here is the opportunity. Because this is the story I've been saying. You don't even know who is your counselor. Tell me if you know. I don't even know who is the counselor. But mind you, assuming we were serious about governance, we make sure that our counselor would not sleep until that which the council owes us or is supposed to do in our community, that we'll make sure that what? Life becomes impossible for him. And if all of them get this heat, this sort of surveillance from the people, they themselves, as a community, they're going to put that same pressure on the chairman to say, for our own existence, we must do this so. And if they collectively put that sort of pressure on the councillors, the chairman themselves would collectively go and look at the governor in the eye and say, oh no, for our own existence, we cannot do this because what? The people will not let us go there.
But let us say, and this has been worsened by, unfortunately, the settle the boys mentality that both the state governors, the local council chairmen, and including the councillors have. And unfortunately, Nigerians are complicit in the sense that these guys would come and they will spend lavishly, and Nigerians would celebrate and sing their praises, even though they do not know the source of these incomes that they're spending. So in other case, the judgment also declared as illegal the activities of governors who go ahead appointing sole administrators and caretaker committees in the state. However, to what extent will this go in ensuring the autonomy of local governments?
That's what I'm saying. You see, the people have to be today, as from that judgment, the people have been given the opportunity to make sure that there is governance at the level. Mind you, I have stated in many things that much of this insecurity is what? Act on by lack of governance, absence of governance in the areas where they operate. The bushes have been left, the farms have been left to the elements. So who thrives in that subsectoral terrain are the bandits. But if you take governance to the people, and there is that connection between the people and the structures of governance in their own locality, they would mutually generate means of what? Securing themselves. But this is not the case. So now, what am I saying? I am saying that the people, you've had up-down sort of legislation or pronouncement. Fine, the law has done its own. But for us here, at the foundational level, it is for us to now generate the ethics that would what? Define those who are above. This is the time. And until you have that everywhere in the world, it is not the law. The law comes in only as a supplement to what? The activities of the people regarding public offices. I cannot be your neighbor. I know you for who you are in the last 10 years, 20 years. I know your financial background, your status. I know who you are owing, everything, because you are from us. And tomorrow you get into office, I see you driving a Lamborghini. I'm going to ask those who are supposed to investigate you to do so, and until they do so, I will not let them sleep. That people-to-people surveillance, people-to-people oversight is what is needed. And that is what has been lacking. You know, when they say apathy, political apathy is not just about not going to vote, but when you look the other way and you don't care, say, because what? Hey, in any case, what are they doing? They are doing that with what is affecting you. Why are the public schools not working? Why do we have to take our children to private school? Why do we need to provide light for ourselves? Why do we need to provide medical this thing for ourselves? Water, security, and everything.
Sometimes even roads.
Everything. Everything you have to provide for yourself. And that is why, if you ask my generation and people of my class, 9 out of 10, they don't even know up to 10, what do you call it now? Up to 10 ministers. Because what? There is no relationship between you and them. Because what? You are your own government. You are your own provider. There are not too many public amenities or shared opportunities. Everything you have to provide for yourself. And because of that, you have no business with it. But we can do better. Let's collapse that and go to those people and start making public officers work.
Well, indeed, learned and we can do much better, definitely, and hopefully this landmark judgment would serve as a foundation upon which people at the grassroots will be able to take advantage to demand, of course, the dividends of democracy from the local government officials. Now, of course, it would mean that at some point, these joint accounts that was opened by the state governors on behalf of the local government would have to be dissolved, right?
Definitely, because there are no monies there. At the moment, the money get into those accounts, they are filtered away. There is no one single, I can bet you.
But constitutionally, they are empowered to have joint.
Yeah, this is because what the constitution envisages is for them to have joint developmental programs.
Okay.
In fashioning your budget and your development program for the state, you have to what? Take into consideration the peculiarities of the local councils or the local government areas. And that's why they say join heads together, join finances together for joint development. That is the purpose of that joint account.
But unfortunately, it was taking a different context.
No, it became what? Pocket money. On money that part of what you would now call what? Security vote. Because what? It's unaccounted for. And that is where there is no development. Where in the developed world do you find a governor given contract or has any business with contract? Why would America not care about having an old man and a completely insane person as two candidates? They won't bother because what? At the end of the day, the institutions for development are there. Those people's business and job is only at the policy level. And irrespective of who is there, the machineries of government will generate what? The party-oriented policies all the time. So the state machinery can run autocruise. All development contracts are by the councils. Those are the people who are actually doing the job. You understand?
Yes.
I was telling somebody, I said, do you know why most of Western Europe you have most times, with due respect, why women are taking over those places?
Tell us.
Yeah, I say, you know why? There is no money there to be stolen. And the offices are not lucrative enough. The men want to go to the big paying jobs. That's where they want. That's why you see them, be you an Indian, be you whatever, you can be president. If you don't perform, they remove you. Because what? They know there is no money to be stolen. There is no money to be stolen. You can't steal. You understand? But we have to, that is the way governance is. It has to be bottom up. How could you expect Nigeria to develop when for the gutter you have, for the drainage that is overfilled in your area, you want the job to come from Aso Rock? Everybody is complaining about the presidency. Everybody, but at the end of every month, they sit together, money is divided into 3 tiers. You don't bother about what those other 2 tiers that are nearer to you are doing with their own funds. Oh, it is Aso Rock.
But and you would agree with me that this judgment is going to open a can of worms in terms of litigations and counter litigation. I mean, just recently there were some local councils that were dissolved, and the question of whether that is constitutional or not. This is in some way.
My brother, don't go there. You are talking to a lawyer.
Like I said,
there is no lawyer that will pray that there shouldn't be litigation. The more the merrier for us.
Oh, indeed.
We like this thing.
It's going to be a field day for litigators.
Thank you. We like that. But the purpose is to enthrone due process compliance. Call it rule of law. Call it democracy. Until we have people doing that which they have to do and ought to do and must do in accordance with what? The law and with the funds that are provided for it, we're going to be where we are. Why haven't you asked this question? Why is Abuja developing by the day? Every day you see work going on. Every day, look at what Wike has turned the place into what? A construction site. You think they have endless money? You think they have more money than the state? No. And let me give you the reason. One of the reasons. The minister is a policy person. The minister is controlling the political arm of the development of Abuja. The law gives the development to the FCDA. The minister is just the chairman of the board of the FCDA. And therefore, you cannot go and tell the executive secretary, say, go and build that road for 10 kobo, but put in the budget 1 billion naira. He's not going to do it because he's the accounting officer. Give him as many jobs as you can, but before you can steal that money, you have to be very creative. So I can tell you that I was there, and that is why it's working. Abuja does not have more money than the states. What it has what? Prudent financial management. And whoever is there as minister, except if you have a conniving president, you've got to what? Be careful.
Indeed. So, SAN, your concluding thoughts to, and of course, would I say your advice to Nigerians now, considering the fact that this judgment empowers the local council, which is closest to them, and of course, who they can hold responsible. What would be your call to them in demanding for the dividends of the
It's a call to arms. This is the time to make sure that things work, because if they don't, execution is just around it. I've always been saying our Somalia is just next door. If we don't arrest the drift, if we do not tame these public officers, if we do not subject them and make them accountable and responsible and responsive to our own needs, we're going to have problem. Because what? The world is in a chaos. Economically, there is no money anywhere. The few or that small one that you have, if you don't put it into good use, believe me, Armageddon is next door. So this is the time for people to hold these people accountable. Enough of this banditry. Enough of this abuse. Indeed. For every one of them you see, I don't know what is with those offices. You see a very calm, easygoing, well-talking, beautiful talking, well-thought-out, minded person.
So much idea.
Every day, the moment they get there, oh boy, quiet. They turn to something else. And all that matters is what? The private, they become God.
Indeed. Well, I couldn't have put it more concisely and more aptly than the learned SAN has done. The call to action is now is the time to demand accountability from your leaders, local, state, and federal level. The onus is upon you to ensure that they are tamed and forced to do the right thing. Of course, it's been an elaborate conversation with learned senior advocate of Nigeria, Sam Kargbo, who has shared extensive perspective on the developments, of course, with constitutional provision to back it up. Thank you so much for being a part of Daybreak this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we'll now go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll be serving you the front pages of the headlines. Thank you.